I'm always interested in looking at something which I think has merit and is worthwhile doing musically. And I felt very much when I discovered Waghalter that that was the case with his music. It couldn't be ignored and really had to be recorded.
Здравствуйте. Здравствуйте. Окей. Хорошо, значит, суита, пожалуйста, 279. Окей, пожалуйста. Окей.
Ignatz Waghalter was a great composer-conductor of the early part of the 20th century, whose extraordinary life story led him from birth in Poland to being a major figure in the musical life of Berlin in the early 20th century. And it's a great mystery why such a major figure seems to have slipped into such obscurity. Waghalter was born into a family of Jewish musicians in Warsaw in 1881. At the turn of the century, he studied at the Berlin Academy of Arts before beginning a career as a composer and a conductor. In 1913, he became a founding music director of the Deutsche Oper in Berlin, and he premiered operas by Puccini. Around that time, he went to America and conducted the New York Phil. Then he was finally invited to be chief conductor of the New York State Symphony Orchestra. He decided that he really didn't like life in America as he'd thought, so he went back to Europe. And of course, with the rise of fascism, things got very difficult for Jewish musicians. He was moving from country to country before he left Austria when the Anschluss came in 1938.
He was in the Grove Musical Encyclopedia, and then he disappeared from it. To be taken out of an encyclopedia is, I think that rarely happens to somebody. How did my grandfather so completely disappear? From about the age of 6 or 7 on, I would go into this crawl space. There was a light, I'd turn it on, and I'd open up this trunk, and there was scrapbooks, manuscripts, scores, containing a record of his career.
There were 3 boxes which David has in his house, so I spent the best part of a week looking through them to see if I could find anything that would be of interest. I spent a good deal of time editing the music and putting it into a performable version. I had to use my entire education and background to put it all together and figure out what went with what. Most complicated is the suite that I've discovered, because that really needs a lot of work. So, I have a photocopy of the complete score, and as you can see, it's a handwritten score. Often his handwriting isn't that easy to read. Now, he wrote a work called Suite for Small Orchestra. I suspect that's what this is.
He lived on Central Park West. He was rehearsing African-American musicians at his apartment, and a petition went around, signed by many people, saying that if he persisted in bringing Negro musicians to his apartment, he would be thrown out of the apartment.
Somebody who was persecuted as a Jewish person in Europe immediately had some sense of empathy with African Americans in America, and that is connected with why he tried to found that orchestra. The suite is a 10-movement work, taking in an extraordinary range of styles, elements of Broadway music, elements of jazz, and also shows the influence of some of the 19th century composers that I think Waghalter loved, some of the theatre music of Tchaikovsky, perhaps some of the ballet music. Each of the movements is a little character piece. I find the melodies within it absolutely enchanting and captivating, and I'm sure the people that hear this CD will find that too.
In the back of my mind, it did occur to me that I might hear the music and be disappointed. I recall at one point asking him, Alex, do you think Ignatz Waghalter was a great composer? And he looked at me, he said, yes, at this point, I do.
He was a composer who very much felt his talent was at the service of the listener, and that he wrote music which people would want to listen to. We're very lucky to have been able to find his scores and to bring him back to life now. I think now is Waghalter's time.